It was a quiet evening in Umueze, one of those peaceful towns in Enugu where tradition still lived strong. Inside the tall, white-walled royal palace, everything looked as grand as you'd imagine. Golden pillars, long red carpets, and staff moving carefully like they walked on glass. But even with all the beauty and luxury, someone in the palace wasn't smiling. Princess Chioma Okafor sat quietly by the large window of her room, staring into the distance. She wore a fine lace wrapper, her hair neatly packed, her face glowing without makeup. But it was clear, something weighed heavily on her heart. She sighed deeply and whispered, "So this is what it means to be a princess. Surrounded by gold but empty inside." Chioma wasn't like other rich girls. She was raised with values, kindness, humility, and self-respect. Even though her father, Eze Okafor, ruled over the kingdom with both wealth and wisdom, Chioma had seen too much fake love. Men who pretended to care, but were only interested in her family's money or royal title. They would say sweet things like, "You're different, Chioma." But the moment they saw her driver or realized she lived in a palace, their tone changed. Suddenly they were in love, offering promises they never intended to keep. She was exhausted. That evening she stood up, paced the room a little, then picked up her phone and dialed her best friend, Ameka. "Hello, Ameka," she said, her voice low but serious. "My princess?" Ameka teased from the other end. "Have you finally agreed to go on that date I planned?" "Maka, I'm serious. I need your help." Ameka paused. "What's going on?" "I want to disappear for a while. Not forever. Just long enough to see how people treat me when they don't know I'm an Okafor." "Wait, disappear how?" "I want to work at your food delivery place. As an ordinary girl, no titles, no drivers, just me." Ameka went silent. She sounded confused, maybe even nervous. "Chioma, do you know what you're saying? You, working in my restaurant? Delivering takeaway packs?" "Yes, Maka, it's the only way I can know who truly sees me. I'm tired of being pursued for the wrong reasons." Amaka sighed. "Are you sure you can handle it? It won't be easy." "That's exactly the point," Chioma replied. "I want it to be real." The next morning, Chioma left the palace before sunrise. She didn't tell her father the full truth, only that she needed time to clear her mind. Her mother had passed away years ago, and her father trusted her judgment. So he gave his blessing and let her go. She transformed her entire appearance. No more designer dresses or royal beads. She wore a simple gown, tied a faded scarf on her head, and slipped on old sandals. Amaka was already waiting at her small food stand by the roadside. "If I didn't know you, I swear I wouldn't recognize you," Amaka said, shaking her head. Chioma laughed softly. "Perfect." They quickly got to work. Amaka handed her the morning food orders in a large tray. "You're delivering to Royal Hills University," she said. "That place is full of rich kids. Let's see how they treat you." Chioma nodded, adjusted the tray on her head, and headed out. As she entered the university gate, students filled the campus, walking with iPhones, flashy bags, and AirPods. Some looked at her briefly, then looked away like she didn't exist. Others even shifted aside to avoid being near her, but she didn't let it bother her. She held her head high and kept moving. Inside the female hostel, she met her first customer, a girl with long Brazilian hair, manicured nails, and a smug look on her face. "You again," the girl scoffed. "What's that smell? Did you bathe in bean water?" Chioma swallowed her pride, smiled politely, and extended the food bag. "Here's your order." "Next time, don't bring your poverty near me," the girl sneered. The words stung, but Chioma didn't flinch. She turned away slowly, holding the now empty tray in her hands. Inside, her heart broke a little. So this is how poor people are treated, she thought. But as she stepped through the campus gate that day, she whispered to herself, "I won't stop. I'll keep coming. Until someone sees me, not what I wear." And just like that, the journey of a princess disguised as a nobody began. A journey in search of one thing no crown could buy: true love. The next morning, Chioma woke up early, dressed in the same plain gown, and tied her scarf tightly. She didn't wear any perfume or makeup, just her clean self and quiet strength. She was ready for another round at Royal Hills University. Ameka packed the food into small plastic bags and handed her the delivery list. Today you're delivering to someone named Ikenna. Big guy, comes from money. I think his father is a senator. Senator? Chioma raised an eyebrow. Yes, oh, and his mouth is as big as his father's name, Ameka said with a dry laugh. Just be careful. Chioma nodded slightly, unaware that her heart would be tested more than ever that day. By 12:30 p.m., the sun was blazing and the campus was buzzing. Students walked in groups, laughing, snapping selfies, living their loud, expensive lives. Chioma moved through the hostel area quietly, ignored by most people. Then she checked the next name on her list: Ikenna Ume. Hostel B, room 204. She climbed the stairs and knocked gently. After a moment, the door opened. Standing there was Ikenna, shirtless, showing off his toned chest, a gold chain dangling around his neck, and designer slides on his feet. His phone was in one hand, and a cocky smirk already played on his lips. "You're the food girl?" he asked, eyeing her from head to toe. "Yes, sir, from Maka's kitchen. Here's your food." Chioma stretched the bag toward him politely with both hands, but instead of taking it, Ikenna wrinkled his nose and stepped back. "What's that smell? Is it from you or the food?" he said, then burst into laughter. From the hallway, students began to glance in their direction. Some pulled out their phones to record. Chioma stood still, face calm. "You didn't even wash your hands before touching my food?" Ikenna shouted dramatically. "What is this, gutter delivery service?" Someone behind him cracked up. "Ikenna, please don't kill me with laughter." Then, without warning, Ikenna dipped into his pocket and pulled out a crumpled N500 note. "Here, use this to buy soap. Next time you serve royalty, make sure you don't smell like firewood and sweat." He dropped the money on the floor, right at her feet. Chioma blinked slowly. Her fingers tightened around the food bag. Still, she said nothing. Ikenna leaned forward, grinning. "And next time, if I see you touch my food with those market hands, I'll report you to the school authority." Chioma gently placed the food on the stool beside the door, then bent to pick up the money, not to keep it, but to return it. "I didn't ask you for money, sir," she said quietly. Ikenna looked stunned. "Keep your insult," she added, then turned and walked away. Behind her, students were still laughing. Some had already uploaded the video online. "This one will definitely go viral today," someone said, but Chioma didn't look back. She walked down the stairs slowly, head low, heart burning. By the time she returned to Ameka's shop, her eyes were red, not from tears, but from anger and realization. "What happened?" Ameka asked. "You're shaking." Chioma told her everything, every word, every sneer, even the way the money was thrown. Ameka was furious. "God, people are wicked. Should I go talk to him?" "No," Chioma said firmly. Ameka looked shocked. "Why not?" "Because I need to feel this," Chioma replied. "This is why I'm doing this, to understand how people act when they think you're nothing." She sat on a wooden bench, eyes staring blankly at the road. "I'm learning, Maka, and I won't stop." Though her hands trembled, her heart was steady. She wasn't just looking for love anymore. She was looking for truth. And that day, truth slapped her across the face. But it didn't break her. It strengthened her. The next day, Chioma woke with a heavy chest. The sting from Ikenna's insult still clung to her mind, but she refused to let it stop her. She folded her scarf tightly, picked up the food trays Ameka had packed, and whispered to herself, "One day, they'll know the truth. But for now, I'll keep moving." Once again, she entered Royal Hills University, more determined than ever not to let insults shake her. She went from room to room, knocking gently, handing out food with her calm smile, even when no one said thank you. Sometimes they slammed the door in her face after taking their food. Other times, they accepted the meal without even looking at her. Still, she stayed composed. Then something unexpected happened. She had just finished her final delivery at the male hostel and was walking down the hallway when her foot caught the sharp edge of a broken stair tile. The tray she held tilted, and one of the food flasks dropped to the ground, spilling rice and stew. Chioma quickly knelt to clean it up, heart racing, eyes darting around in fear, expecting laughter, maybe even someone recording. But instead, a quiet voice said behind her, "Wait, let me help you with that." She turned. Standing there was a young man in a simple shirt and faded jeans. No chain, no wristwatch, no arrogance. Just calm eyes and a gentle face. He bent beside her and picked up the flask. "Are you okay?" he asked. "Yes, I'm fine," she said, surprised. "Wait here," he said, then disappeared briefly. He returned with a sachet of water and a small cloth. "Let's clean your hands." Chioma was speechless. For a moment, she just stared at him. "Thank you," she finally said. "You're welcome. I'm Ameka Obi, final year law student." "I'm Chioma. I work with Maka's Kitchen." He smiled. "I know that place. Their okepa is amazing." She chuckled, her nerves easing a little. "You're the first person who hasn't shouted at me or ignored me since I started delivering food here." Ameka raised a brow. "Really? That's awful, but you're doing honest work." "Some people don't see it that way," she said softly. "Well then, they need to grow up," he replied. "My mom sells roasted corn in Nsuka. I grew up watching the strength in those hands." Chioma blinked. "You don't act like most guys here." "That's because I'm not like most guys," he said with a slight grin. They sat on a short bench under a tree beside the hostel. The breeze was soft and warm. For the first time in days, Chioma felt safe. No laughter, no mockery, no disgust over her appearance. Ameka asked questions, not the shallow kind. He wanted to know where she was from, what she liked to eat, what her dreams were, beyond carrying food trays. Chioma found herself talking, really talking. She told him about her late mother, about how life had changed. She didn't reveal her royal identity, but her voice carried more truth than titles ever could. Ameka listened, silently, attentively. "You're different," he said gently. She looked at him, puzzled. "How?" "Most girls I meet here are loud, flashy, and only care about who's driving what. But you're calm, respectful, real." Chioma's cheeks warmed slightly. "Thank you," she whispered. As she stood to leave, he helped lift her tray. "I'll walk you to the gate," he offered. And he did. Every step felt lighter. Not because the tray was easier to carry, but because, for the first time since this journey began, someone saw her. Not her scarf, not her slippers, not the tray, just her. And that simple act of kindness became the light Chioma didn't know she needed. In the days that followed, something quietly beautiful began to blossom between Chioma and Ameka. Each time she came to deliver food at Royal Hills University, he would somehow find her. Not always in the same place, but always just in time. Sometimes under the mango tree. Other times near the back gate, or at the corner of the canteen, where the benches were cracked and tilted like they could collapse any moment. And every time, with a playful smile, he'd say, "So, what's on the menu today, Chef Chioma?" She'd laugh, shaking her head. "Chef, please, I only carry the food. Amaka is the one doing the magic in the pot." They often sat together sharing puff-puff and cold sachet water, talking like old friends. Ameka always had a story to tell, sometimes funny, sometimes deeply personal. He once shared how he almost failed physics in secondary school because he was always helping his mother sell at the evening market. He spoke about his dream of opening a law firm that would give free legal help to poor families. Chioma listened in awe. This wasn't just any guy. He was real, grounded, humble, and even though he had little, his words were rich. But inside her heart, something else was happening. Something she wasn't prepared for. She was falling for him. At first it was just admiration. Then it grew into respect. Then laughter turned into butterflies. And now she found herself thinking of him before bed, smiling at random moments, fixing her scarf twice before leaving Ameka's shop, just in case she saw him. Yet, she kept a wall up, because deep down, Kyoma was scared. What if he finds out who I really am? Will he feel betrayed? Will he think I was playing him all along? She couldn't tell him. Not yet, not when everything felt so pure and innocent. She needed more time. But someone else had started noticing their closeness. Ikenna, the same boy who had insulted her, now watched from a distance, bitter, confused, and angry. One afternoon, Ikenna stood by his hostel window, chewing gum as he watched Ameka and Chioma laugh together under the mango tree. "Look at this local girl again," he muttered. "First, she acts like she's too proud to take my money. Now she's forming love with that broke scholarship guy?" Something twisted inside him. Maybe it was jealousy, or maybe just a bruised ego. He turned to his roommate, who was scrolling through music on his phone. "Guy, who's that food girl always with Ameka?" "You mean that quiet one that wears scarf? The one that Sabi mind her business?" "Yes, she thinks she's smart. But I'll teach her that this school isn't for people like her." His friend shrugged. "Leave them alone. Ameka no even get money. That thing go fade soon." But Ikenna wasn't the type to let things go. From that day forward, he watched them both like a hawk. If they sat together, he saw. If they laughed, he noticed. If she entered a hostel, he made loud comments just within earshot. Kyoma felt it, the looks, the whispers, the slow buildup of tension. But Ameka? He stayed exactly the same. Kind, gentle, focused, like none of that background noise mattered. One day, he looked her in the eyes and said, "Kyoma, I hope you know you're safe around me. Whatever people are saying doesn't matter to me. I see you." She stared at him, her heart thudding hard in her chest. She wanted to tell him everything, her real name, why she was truly there, how much his words meant. But all she managed to say was, "Thank you, Ameka. I see you too." And deep in her heart, the words she didn't say whispered loudly, "I think I'm in love with you. Get him." "Sir, please don't interfere," one said. "We are following school protocol." Kyoma looked up at Ameka, her eyes trembling, not from guilt, but from shame. From the whispers, the way people stared at her like she was dirt. "Ameka," she whispered. "Don't worry," he replied, trying to stay calm. "We'll fix this." But inside, he was boiling. The guards took her by the arm and began leading her away. Phones were out, students were recording, some laughed, others whispered cruelly. "So she's been a thief all along?" I said it. Her humble girl act was fake. They placed her in the back of a school van and drove straight to the local police station in New Haven. Inside the station, Chioma sat alone on a hard wooden bench. The air was loud with voices. Officers moved back and forth, papers shuffled, phones rang. An officer came over and asked, "What's your full name?" "Kyoma," she said softly. "Your parents' address?" "I live with a friend." "You do know this is a serious accusation, right? Theft." She nodded quietly. The officer studied her for a moment. "You don't look like someone who steals." She didn't answer. "If you have anyone to call, now's the time." She shook her head. Just one call would have ended everything. One mention of her father's name, Eze Okafor, and this entire drama would stop in its tracks. She could have said, "I'm Princess Kyoma Okafor." But she didn't. Because if she ran back to her title now, the truth she was searching for would never surface. If she quit at the first storm, then this journey would mean nothing. So she sat there, still, calm, waiting. Back at the royal palace, night had fallen. Inside his private chambers, Eze Okafor was reading quietly when his private line rang. It was Uncle Ibuka, the palace's discreet head of security, loyal to the crown for over 2 decades. "Your Majesty," the voice said, steady but urgent, "your daughter has been arrested." The king sat upright. "Where?" "At Royal Hills University. The police say she stole something. I don't believe it. I just got word from one of our men watching over her." "Did she tell them who she is?" "No, sir. She kept quiet." The king's jaw tightened. "Send someone immediately, quietly. I want her out before morning." "Yes, Your Majesty." At the police station, Kioma had dozed off on the bench. Her back ached, her scarf had loosened. Her fingers were stiff from the cold. Around 2 a.m., a sleek black SUV rolled up outside the station. 2 men stepped in. They flashed a discreet badge, spoke quietly to the officer on duty, then turned toward Kioma. The officer walked over and said, "You're free to go." Kioma blinked, confused. "What? But how?" "Someone important called. You can leave." She stood slowly, picked up her small bag, and followed the men outside. They opened the SUV door and she stepped in silently. She didn't ask who called. She didn't speak. She just sat quietly, her heart pounding. Not with fear anymore, but with one lingering question. Does Ameka still believe in me? By morning, everything had changed. Students returned to their hostels to find campus buzzing with confusion. "Did you hear that the food girl is back?" "I thought she was in jail." "How did she get out? Even my cousin who stole bread spent 2 days locked up." "Something's off. That girl must have strong connections." Rumors spread like wildfire. Some said she was the daughter of a military general. Others said she used charms to control the police. One bold guy even claimed he saw a black SUV with tinted windows whisk her away like a first lady. But no one had proof. Only one question echoed across campus. Who is Kioma really? Elsewhere, Ameka sat under the mango tree where he and Kioma used to share puff-puff and laughter. His books were open, but he couldn't read. His mind replayed the image of her being dragged away, calm, quiet, yet deeply wounded. He had spent all night trying to locate her. He called people, spoke to security men, and even begged the hostel porter for information. Nothing. Then, just that morning, he saw her. Walking through the campus gate with her head held low and a small bag in her hand. Alive, free, still quiet, still Kioma. He didn't rush to her, not yet. He wanted to hear the truth from her lips. He wanted to see if she'd come to him first. Across campus, Ekena wasn't smiling. He paced around his room like a lion in a cage, phone in hand, chewing his lip. His roommate Uche watched him with concern. "Ekena, calm down now. The girl's out. So what?" "You don't get it," Ekena snapped. "She's not normal. I told them to lock her up. I even paid that foolish officer. How did she walk out like nothing happened?" Uche frowned. "You think she has big connections?" "She has to. Did you see the way she returned? Like someone who owns the place." Ekena dropped into his seat and dialed a number. The call connected instantly. "My son," his mother, Mrs. Naneka, answered warmly. "Good morning." "Mommy, we have a problem." He explained everything. How Kioma was supposed to be disgraced, how she came back without a scratch, and how students were now whispering she might be royalty. There was silence on the line, then a slow, calculated response. "Let them whisper. That's what poor people do. You embarrassed her. That should be enough." "But Mummy?" "Hush, there's a party next week. An exclusive gala hosted by one of our clients. The prince himself will be there." Ekena's eyes lit up. "The prince? From the royal family?" "Yes, you'll attend with me. I'll introduce you. It's time we move past distractions like that food girl." He leaned back and smiled. "Thanks, Mom. I'll be ready." But what neither of them knew was that the very girl they had mocked and schemed against was closer to that royal bloodline than they could ever imagine. Meanwhile, back at Maka's kitchen, Ameka pulled Kioma into a long, emotional hug the moment she returned. I was so worried, she cried. Why didn't you call? Why didn't you tell them who you are? Kioma smiled faintly, her spirit tired, but her heart steady. Because I needed to know who I am without the crown. Now I see everything more clearly. Ameka shook her head slowly. What you're doing, it's not small, Chioma. I didn't come for small lessons, Chioma replied. So what happens now? Chioma looked out the small shop window, where the sky was beginning to turn pink with evening light. Now we wait for the next chapter. Across town, Mrs. Neka was pacing her luxurious parlor, phone in hand, fury in her eyes. So this girl's still walking around? She barked at someone over the phone. And now she's even invited to the royal gala? The voice on the other end responded, Yes, Ma, that's what we heard. They say she'll be dressed like royalty. Mrs. Neka clenched her jaw. Then she must not shine that night. I want her disgraced, publicly. I want the entire kingdom to laugh. We have boys for the job, the voice said confidently. Just send her photo and location. You'll have everything by tonight, she replied, opening her phone gallery. She ended the call and muttered to herself. She thinks she can humiliate my son and walk away in glory? Never. I will destroy her image and erase her from memory. Ikenna walked into the room and saw his mother's face. Mummy, what's going on? I'm fixing it. That delivery girl, she'll wish she never showed her face at that gala. He grinned. Good, because when I stand beside the prince that night, I don't want her anywhere near the spotlight. His mother nodded. After that night, nobody will even remember her name. But what they didn't know was that the prince himself was already waiting for her. Saturday evening arrived like a dream. The grand palace courtyard glowed under the soft shimmer of golden lights. Oil lamps lined the cobblestone path. Traditional drums played softly in the background, and the air was rich with the scent of fresh flowers and perfume. Royal guards stood at every corner, dressed in white uniforms, spears gleaming in the warm evening air. Guests had come from far and wide. Politicians, business moguls, celebrities, and royals. Everyone wore their best. Lace, agbada, silk gowns, gel tied like crowns, shoes that sparkled, and accessories that screamed status. And among them stood Ameka, dressed in a freshly pressed navy blue senator outfit. Not the most expensive attire, but he wore it with quiet pride. In his hand, he held a golden invitation. He looked around the palace in awe. Chandeliers hung like stars. Servers moved between guests with trays of small chops and glasses of wine. The space shimmered with wealth and power. Why am I even here? He whispered to himself. But before he could finish that thought, the drums stopped. Every guest turned toward the top of the royal staircase. And then she appeared. Princess Chioma Okafor. She descended the steps slowly in a flowing sky-blue Isiagu dress with golden embroidery. Coral beads adorned her neck. Her hair was swept into a regal bun. Her face glowed, not from makeup, but from grace. She didn't walk, she glided. Gasps filled the air. Chineke, see beauty. Who is she? That must be the princess. But there was one person in the crowd who didn't speak. Ameka. He stood frozen. His heart raced like a drum in his chest. That's her, he whispered. The girl who sells food. She moved past dignitaries, past governors, and walked straight to him. The crowd parted, eyes widened. Kioma stopped in front of Ameka and gently took his hand. You treated me like royalty, she said softly, even when I had nothing. Now let me show you what you truly deserve. Gasps again. Whispers rippled through the crowd. Wait, what's happening? She knows him? That's the delivery girl's boyfriend? Ameka opened his mouth, but nothing came out. He just looked at her, overwhelmed, stunned, speechless. I'm sorry I didn't tell you the truth, she continued. I had to be sure, but everything I said, every smile, every story, every word, it was real. Tears filled his eyes. "So, you're the princess?" "I am," she nodded. "But with you, I was just Kioma." At that moment, the palace announcer stepped forward and declared loudly, "All rise and honor Her Royal Highness, Princess Kioma Okafor, and her chosen guest." The crowd erupted in applause. Cameras flashed, people cheered, but one person was not clapping. Ikenna. He stood stiff near the drinks table, his hands clenched, watching everything unfold like a nightmare. Beside him, someone whispered, "Obi, that's her, that food girl." Ikenna's ears burned, his stomach twisted. Everything collapsed in his mind. His pride, his schemes, his lies. She was royalty. The girl he mocked was standing beside the princess's throne. He took one step forward, maybe to speak, maybe to beg, but two palace guards immediately blocked his path. "Excuse us, sir. This area is for honored guests." The humiliation was sharp. He turned slowly and walked away, his legs heavy, his phone buzzing with missed calls. He tried calling his mother. She didn't answer. The plan had failed, and the girl they tried to bury? She was now rising before the whole kingdom. While the palace courtyard buzzed with joy, glasses clinking, drums beating, and dancers twirling, not everyone had come to celebrate. Outside the palace fence, a black motorcycle pulled up silently. The rider, broad-shouldered, scarred, wearing a worn cap, lit a cigarette and pulled out his phone. His name was Max. A street gang leader from the rougher side of Enugu, Max was the kind of man even thugs feared. He had been paid handsomely by a certain woman to ruin a girl at the royal gala. No weapons, just disgrace, public shame, strip her dignity, break her completely. He laughed when he got the job. Easy money. But everything changed the moment he received the girl's photo via WhatsApp. His hand froze. The smile vanished, because he knew that face. Not hers exactly, but the eyes, the smile, the grace. She looked like the man who had once saved his mother's life. Mazi Okafor. Years ago, when Max was a broke teenager roaming the streets, his mother collapsed from untreated illness. Hospitals demanded payment. No one helped. People passed them every day, ignoring them. But one man stopped. A respected community elder. Mazi Okafor. He paid the entire bill. Quietly. No cameras. No attention. "Help her," he said simply. "And if you must repay me, do good for someone else." That day changed Max forever. And now, that man's only daughter, he was being paid to destroy her. He threw the cigarette to the ground and crushed it under his boot. God forbid. Instead of moving toward the palace, he dialed a number. Inside the royal quarters, Prince Tobe, Kioma's cousin, picked up the call. "Who's this?" "My name is Max. I have information about a planned attack on Princess Kioma. Please tell the king." "Go on." "There's a woman, Mrs. Ameka, mother of one Ikenna. She paid me to embarrass the princess tonight. But I can't do it. Her father once saved my family. I owe him my life. Do you have proof?" "Yes, I'll send the chats, voice notes, and bank alerts." Moments later, Prince Tobe rushed into the king's inner chambers. "Your Majesty, we have a betrayal and evidence." That very night, while guests danced outside unaware, palace guards quietly stormed a compound in Independence Layout. Inside, Mrs. Ameka and Ikenna were lounging with wine, watching videos from the gala. Both were bitter. "She had the nerve to show her face," Mrs. Ameka spat, "but her time is coming." Just then, bang! The doors burst open. Armed officers stormed in. "Freeze! You're under arrest for conspiracy and defamation against the royal family." "What nonsense is this?" Mrs. Ameka shouted. "We have proof," the lead officer said calmly. He held up a tablet. "You sent money and instructions to sabotage the princess. You're done." Ikenna tried to run. They tackled him to the ground. "It wasn't me. It was my mom." "You fool," Mrs. Ameka snapped. "You were part of it too." They were handcuffed, dragged out. By morning, the entire kingdom was buzzing. Ikena and his mum arrested. So it was true? They wanted to destroy the princess? After everything she went through. Inside the royal garden, Kioma sat beside her father, sipping tea. The morning breeze was calm. You see now, Eze Okafor said, when your heart is clean, even strangers will rise to protect you. She smiled softly. Thank God Max remembered your kindness. Kindness, her father said, is never wasted, my daughter. Just then, a servant entered. Your Highness, Ameka is at the gate. Bring him in. Ameka entered the palace gate slowly, bowing as he walked across the courtyard. His hands were slightly sweaty. His heart beat fast. Before him sat Eze Okafor, regal in white, his presence commanding but kind. Chioma stood beside her father, dressed in a simple, graceful gown, her hands clasped in front of her, her eyes shining with quiet joy. Good morning, Your Majesty, Ameka said with a respectful bow. The king smiled. Young man, we've been expecting you. Kioma stepped forward, took Ameka's hand and said gently, Papa, this is the man I told you about. The king studied him with calm eyes, then nodded. I've heard many things. You are welcome to stay with us as the princess's guest. Ameka's eyes widened. Me? In this palace? Yes, the king replied. Royalty doesn't always marry royalty. Sometimes, they marry people with royal hearts. Kioma looked at Ameka and whispered, Are you ready for this? He smiled through his disbelief. As long as you're beside me, I'm ready for anything. And just like that, the scholarship boy who once shared Puff Puff under a mango tree walked proudly into the palace, not just as a guest, but as the future king of Kioma's heart. Exactly 1 month later, Umwezi came alive like never before. From dawn, the roads were filled with celebration. Drummers arrived, masquerades danced, palm wine flowed. Children chased one another through the streets in new clothes. And at the very center of it all, the royal palace sparkled with light and laughter. Because today, Princess Kioma Okafor was getting married, not to a prince from another land, but to the boy who once wiped stew off her hands and saw her when no one else did, Ameka Obi. The traditional ceremony began beneath tall palm trees in the palace courtyard. Chioma wore a richly woven red and gold George wrapper, coral beads around her neck, wrists, and ankles. Her braided crown sat tall and elegant. She looked every inch a queen. Ameka wore a deep blue isiagu top, a red cap slightly tilted on his head, and a carved ebony walking stick. But it wasn't his outfit that made people stare. It was the look in his eyes, grateful, humble, and full of love. Guests sat on decorated chairs, watching as Kioma walked out holding a cup of palm wine. She moved gracefully through the crowd, searching. And when she reached Ameka, she knelt and offered the cup. He took it with both hands, drank deeply. The crowd erupted with cheers. Odogwu diya! Nunya ni u! Drums thundered. Women danced. Money sprayed like rain as the couple stood beaming in each other's arms. Later that afternoon, the white wedding took place in the palace garden. An arch of fresh flowers stood behind them. The breeze was cool. The choir sang softly. When the priest pronounced them husband and wife, Ameka lifted Kioma's veil and kissed her gently on the forehead. The crowd clapped. Even the palace guards blinked back tears. After the white wedding ceremony, the golden sun dipped low, casting a warm glow over the palace garden. As guests settled beneath flowered arches and silk tents, Eze Okafor stood up to speak. He held a microphone, but his voice carried like a drum even without it. Today, I'm not just giving out my daughter, he said. I'm gaining a son. He turned to Ameka and nodded. A son who reminds us all that strength is not in loud voices or flashy titles, but in quiet courage. Then he turned to Kioma, his voice tender. And you, my daughter, you have made me proud. You proved that royalty is not about sitting on a throne, but about standing for truth, even when it hurts. The guests applauded softly. Then it was Kyoma's turn. She rose slowly, her white gown flowing behind her like calm waves. She stood beside her husband, holding the mic with grace. She looked around at the crowd. Nobles, chiefs, workers, students, villagers. Royalty, she began, is not a title. It is how we treat those we think are beneath us. She paused, then added, I became a nobody to find somebody, and I did. Not because of his wealth, but because of his heart. There was silence. Then a powerful burst of applause. Some stood to clap, others raised their hands in respect. Even the chief priest wiped his eyes discreetly with a white handkerchief. As the sun began to set behind the royal garden, Chioma and Ameka walked hand in hand, weaving through a sea of smiling guests. Children played, women danced, elders nodded in approval. They didn't need security guards or horses. They didn't need gold crowns or fancy speeches. They just needed each other. Two people from different worlds, one royal by birth, the other royal by heart. And so the girl once mocked for carrying food now sat beside her husband in a palace, not because she chased wealth, but because she chose kindness. And kindness brought her home. The end.